Hi, I'm Chef Ian Bromstead, and welcome to Regal Fare, where I'll show you how to create simple and elegant meals, just like we do at some of the finest restaurants in this country. Today we're going to prepare a red snapper crudo, then we're going to prepare a roasted lamb rack with fava beans and cucumber, but first we're going to start with our chocolate mousse. So first, to start our chocolate mousse, I'm going to place this bowl in a little double boiler. A double boiler is really just a little bowl set over a boiling pot of water. It really creates a nice gentle heat, which would be perfect to melt this chocolate. So I'm just going to take 1.5 ounces of chocolate, and I'm just going to melt it into our rum. We have 1.5 tablespoons of rum here. We're just going to let the chocolate melt into that. Then we're going to take a tablespoon of coffee, and I'm going to boil that in this pot here. And I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of sugar to this coffee. We're going to let that come up to a boil. And while we wait for the coffee and the sugar to boil, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to separate this egg. Turn this down just a little bit. I'm going to separate this egg into 2 bowls. I'm going to put the white in here, and I'm going to put the egg yolk in this other bowl. I'm just going to wash my hand. So while we wait for the coffee and the sugar to boil, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to beat this egg yolk just until it's light and frothy. So just a few minutes here, just until the egg yolk starts to get a little pale, a little opaque. And what's going to happen when the egg yolk is nice and whipped and frothy, it's just going to become a little pale in color. It's going to take a few moments. Going to have to add a little elbow grease here. But the idea is here that we whip a little bit of air into this so we create a nice frothy mousse. And this nice whipped egg yolk is going to be a perfect base for that. Just a little bit longer here. We can go ahead and we can take our coffee and sugar, which has started to form a nice syrup. And we can just let this cool for just 1 second actually before we whisk it into our egg yolk. Just want to make sure that we have a nice cool, not too hot coffee syrup before we whisk it into our egg yolk, or we run the risk of making scrambled eggs. So I'm just mixing the chocolate and the rum together. And now that this is almost melted, I'm just going to go ahead and add our butter. I have 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter here. I'm just going to melt this in here. Just let this melt in. So now that we have our egg yolk whipped and we have our coffee syrup made, I can gently fold the coffee syrup into the egg yolk. We want to be careful not to go too quickly, as the hot syrup can scramble the egg yolk. So we just want to whisk it in very slowly. So once you get most of it in there, the eggs will have tempered, so we can go ahead and we can dump the rest in. So now that we have our coffee, our sugar, and our egg yolk combined, we can start to whisk this over our other double boiler, continuing to melt our chocolate and butter together. Nice rich chocolate butter. Almost melted on the butter, and this is just about done here. As soon as the butter's melted, it's ready. So now that is going along nicely, we can go ahead and we can cook this egg yolk just over our double boiler, just until it's thick. So just continue to cook this over the warm heat, and very soon this will start to become thick as the egg yolk will start to cook and it'll start to thicken the coffee syrup. Almost ready. We can start to see that it's almost starting to form little ribbons here. Almost. Just another few moments here. Just another few moments. You can see that the color is starting to get lighter. Just want to make sure that we get all over. We don't have any clumps anywhere. So this is just about ready here. Our coffee syrup is just about cooked with our egg yolk. So now that we're starting to get nice ribbons here, we can tell that the coffee syrup is cooked nicely into our egg yolk. So we can pull this aside, and we can just mix this last little bit of butter into our chocolate. And keep this here. It stays nice and warm. So now that we have our coffee syrup cooked into our egg yolk, and our chocolate and our butter and our rum melted together, I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna whisk this egg white. Just a little bit. We don't wanna over whip it. If we go a little too far, the texture of the egg white is gonna become grainy. So we just wanna whip this until it makes soft peaks. So our egg white here is just about ready. Almost have peaks here. As soon as it'll just start to hold its own shape when we pull the whisk out, we can stop. It's almost ready. We really just only need just a few more seconds of mixing. And now we can see that it almost holds a peak. This is what we call soft peak stage of the egg white. So we have here our coffee and sugar and egg yolk. We can make sure that these are all thoroughly mixed, that we don't have any clumps on the side. Now we can take our chocolate and we can mix it into our egg yolk and coffee mixture. So we just can pour this right in. Bowl's a little hot. Make sure that we get all the chocolate off. Whisk it all down. It's hard to hold the hot bowl. We can just make sure that we get all that chocolate in there. Now that all the chocolate is mixed into our sugar and coffee and egg yolk mixture, we have a beautiful base for our chocolate mousse. So now that we have these two ingredients ready, we can go ahead and we can fold our egg whites in. So now that we have our nicely whipped egg whites, we can just start to fold these into our mousse. So we have here a beautiful base for our chocolate mousse, and we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna start folding our egg whites in. I like to do like 2 additions. We just wanna fold, we don't wanna stir. We don't wanna whisk them in. We just gently wanna fold the egg whites in so that they retain a lot of that air that we just whisked into them, and we have a nice fluffy chocolate mousse. Almost ready here. Just add the remainder of the white. Now we have our finished mousse. As soon as we finish folding all the egg white in, we can go ahead and we can just put it right into these ramekins and we can set it to cool. Almost ready here. Just as soon as all the egg white is incorporated, we can get them right into the mold. And again, being careful not to over mix. So we can take all this delicious chocolate mousse and just pour it right into these ramekins. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna set them into a refrigerator to cool. And then once they're cold, they're ready. Just a little bit more in here. And our chocolate mousse is ready. I'm just gonna pop these into the refrigerator. We'll come right back and we'll start working on our lamb. So we're back and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start preparing our lamb rack. So here I have a beautiful rack of lamb. This comes to us from Colorado, 2 bones. Nice and marbled. You can see all the layers of fat in there. That's gonna make a really tender and delicious lamb. So I'm just gonna season this pretty generously with some salt and pepper. All sides. I like a nice heavy seasoning on the outside of the lamb. Really works well, gets nice and crusty. Really stands up to the flavor of the lamb really well. So I have a hot pan here. I'm just gonna add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. I'm just gonna place the lamb right in. So we're just gonna wanna roast the lamb on both sides, cooking it nice and gently, getting a nice crusty sear on it. And we are going to serve our lamb here. Today we're gonna have a little salad with some cherry tomato, some cucumber, some raw red onion, some delicious fava beans, basil, a little bit of parsley, some lemon, and some olive oil. It's gonna be a really excellent summer salad to go with this roasted lamb. So we're just cooking the lamb here. Just wanna get a nice sear, roasting slowly. With lamb, I find to go a little slower is better because it's a gentle little cut of meat here. We don't wanna get a hard sear. We don't wanna go too fast. What'll end up happening is we'll get a little gray ring around the edge of the meat if we go a little too fast, and oftentimes the center will be very rare and the outside will be a little on the well done side. So I don't like to go too fast with the lamb. I like to just have a nice, gentle sear. Just continue to cook it here. Turn the heat down a little, starting to get a little wisps of smoke. Don't want to go too fast. Slow it down a little bit. Now that we have a good sear on there, we can go ahead and we can flip it over. So now that we have a nice sear on the outside of our lamb, I'm just going to kiss it on the sides. I don't like to cook it too much on the sides because it tends to cook the center of the meat a little more than I like. So I just want to kiss it just a little bit, just to get a little sear. I think that's enough. A little bit on this side too. Get a nice sear on this too. But again, being gentle, very gentle when we cook the sides of the lamb. You can really overcook it very easily if we cook it too long on this side. So now that we've kissed both sides, I'm just going to set this here. I like to leave the bones right up on the side of the pan. So now this is ready for the oven. I'm going to pop this into a 375-degree oven for about 9 or 10 minutes, just until we have a nice medium rare. So we'll be right back and we'll finish our dish. So our lamb has come out of the oven. I've just given it a couple moments to rest here. That's going to help keep all the blood from running out when we go to slice it. So I'm just going to now start our salad. So I'm going to take some of these cherry tomatoes. I'm going to add this to the bowl. I'm going to take some of our cucumbers, our peeled and seeded and sliced cucumbers. I'm just going to add some of those. I'm going to take some of this raw sliced red onion. Nice sharp onion bite to the salad. I'm going to take some of these beautifully green favas. All I did with these favas was I took them out of their pods. I blanched them for about 20 seconds and then I picked them out of their pods. So we're just gonna mix these together. Now we can season with just a little bit of salt and a little fresh cracked pepper. I'm going to season with just a little bit of olive oil. Just going to add a little bit of fresh lemon juice here. No seeds. I'm going to just dress all these vegetables. And now we're going to just fold in our herbs. So I have just a little bit of picked Italian flat leaf parsley and a little bit of torn basil leaves. I'm going to mix all these herbs together. Really beautiful, delicious, fresh salad. Be an excellent accoutrement to the lamb. Lamb really loves to go with beans, and this will be an excellent, excellent side with our lamb. So I'm just going to spoon a generous portion of the bean salad into the bowl. These beautiful bright green fava beans. Got these from Lonnie Farms at the Union Square Green Market. Beautiful bright green fava beans. Really brings an excellent, excellent freshness to this dish, these fresh fava beans. Just a little more cucumber. I really like the cool crunch of the cucumber. I think that works really, really well in here. Just a little more onion. I love the bite of the raw red onion in there, especially with the roasted meat. So now we have our salad down. So I'm just going to split this lamb right down the middle. I'm going to go right down through the bones, right down through the center of the bones, and just slice it open. And we have this beautiful roasted lamb. So I'm just going to lay this just on top of the salad. I like to stick the bones up. It really makes for a nice presentation. I'm going to take some of this crunchy Maldon salt and I'm going to sprinkle it right on the meat. And I'm going to drizzle just a little bit of fresh extra virgin olive oil just on the meat. So here we have our roasted lamb with fava bean, cucumber, red onion, tomato, and basil. We're going to get this cleaned up and we'll be right back to make our red snapper. Welcome back. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start on our crudo now. So I have some nice little slices right from the center of the fillet of a red snapper. And I've taken all the scraps, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them right through this food mill. We're going to create a nice little mince of the hamachi. So we can just start pushing all this hamachi right through the food mill. It takes a few moments. It's a really nice way to use up all the scraps when you're creating your own crudo dish. It's really excellent preparation. I really love to take the leftovers from all the nice slices of our Crudo fish and push them through the food mill to make this nice little mince here. Push all the little pieces down. They get caught by the blades. And continue to turn just until as much of the red snapper has passed through. This is also a really excellent way to mince all the fish and remove all the sinew. So okay, we have a nice amount of minced red snapper. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to season this with just a little bit of kosher salt. I'm going to drizzle in just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. I'm going to add just a little bit of fresh chopped chives. And I'm going to set this aside now. We can start working on our other garnishes. So I have just a little bit of chopped raw cucumber here. And I'm going to take just a little spoon of cucumber. So now that we have our cucumber in the bowl, we can go ahead and season this again with just a little bit of salt, a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, and a little bit of fresh cracked pepper. So we can do the same thing with our red pepper here. I'm just going to take a little red pepper and put it in this bowl. So all I did to prepare this pepper was I just charred the skin of a red pepper, a red bell pepper, over a flame just here on the burner. So after I take the pepper off the open flame, I put it right into a sealed container, and what that does is let the residual heat from the pepper steam the skin off. So then I just peeled all the black charred skin away, removed the seeds and the pith on the inside of the pepper, and then just chopped it roughly. So I'm just seasoning this with just a little bit of salt and cracked black pepper. And again, we're going to add just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. Now I'm going to stir all of our garnishes here just to incorporate all the seasonings. So we have our red pepper garnish ready. We have our chive garnish ready. So now that all of our seasonings are mixed into our cucumber, we can set this aside. And we can do the same with the hamachi mince. We can just fold in the chives, the salt, and the extra virgin olive oil into this. Now that we have this nice and incorporated, we can go ahead and we can start plating our red snapper slices. So I have some beautiful slices of Florida red snapper here. And I'm just going to go ahead and start arranging them on the plate here. So we're just going to place these around just nice and evenly. So we're going to take our red snapper mince here. We're just going to make a nice little quenelle of it and put it on the plate. So we'll just take a nice little scoop here. And we'll just make a nice little quenelle, just like a little football. Nice little way to arrange the raw minced fish here. Make a nice little dollop. Put the little quenelle right here. We can do the same with our cucumber. And we can do the same with the pepper. So now we have all of our garnishes down. So we can take just a little bit of fresh lemon zest and grate this all over the fish. This adds a really delicious zestiness to the fish. So I like a lot. While we're zesting, we want to be careful that we don't get into the bitter pith of the lemon. So next we can take some of our crunchy Maldon salt. I really like the crunch and the saltiness of the Maldon salt, and the saltiness really works well with the raw fish. So we can go ahead and we can take some of our extra virgin olive oil and just drizzle this over the slices of the raw fish. My favorite thing on raw fish is just a little bit of this crunchy salt and just some excellent extra virgin olive oil. It's really all I feel that raw fish needs, but I think these are some excellent garnishes as well. So I have some deep fried rosemary leaves here, and I think this also works really well with the fish. I really like the texture and the crunch of the rosemary. And I really like how the rosemary just really brings out the subtleness of the raw fish. And I really just love the herbaceous quality of the fried rosemary. So we have here here we have our red snapper crudo with red pepper, cucumber, and rosemary. We're gonna clean this up and we'll be right back to present our dishes. All right, we're back and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna finish up our chocolate mousse now. So I'm just gonna take a pan here. I'm just gonna add about a tablespoon of sugar. And then I'm gonna add just a few of these blackberries. We're just gonna let these cook right in here. Wanna just let the sugar melt right in the pan, and we can mix the blackberries into it. So while our blackberries are cooking, I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna just make a little bit of whipped cream. So I have about 1/4 cup of heavy cream here. I'm just gonna start whisking. Very quickly we'll notice that this cream immediately goes from liquid to a nice silky mousse-like consistency. It'll go really well with the chocolate mousse. I really love a little whipped cream on top of the chocolate mousse. Almost ready here. We don't want to go too much with the whipped cream. It'll get a little dry, almost a little chunky. Want to stay away from that. So now that our sugar is melting and our blackberries, you can just go ahead and add just a little splash of water. So we'll let these blackberries keep cooking while we finish our whipped cream. So just another few moments here, we can see that the whipped cream is just starting to hold its shape. We don't want to go too much more than this. So now that our whipped cream is almost there, we can just take a little bit of this white sugar and just sprinkle it in, about a teaspoon. And our whipped cream is just about done. I'm going to add about 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Make a delicious whipped cream here. So our whipped cream is ready. And our blackberries are cooking along nicely. Love to cook the blackberries in just a little bit of simple syrup. Warm them through, really bring out some of their sweetness. I really love the warm, fresh blackberries. It really adds a delicious tartness to the richness of the chocolate mousse. So now we can take our nice warm blackberries and just arrange them on the plate. Nice and simple. One more piece right here. And we can take some of this syrup that we made here in the pan. You just drizzle it all around. Really, the acidity of the blackberries is really gonna bring a nice flavor to the chocolate mousse. It's really gonna help cut through that richness of the chocolate mousse. So I'm just gonna take a little scoop of the whipped cream here and just put it right on top of the chocolate mousse. So here we have our chocolate mousse with our stewed blackberries and whipped cream. We have our red snapper crudo with red pepper, cucumber, and rosemary. And we have our roasted rack of lamb with our fava bean, cucumber, and basil salad. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Regal Fare. I'm Chef Ian Bromstead, and we'll see you next time.